Welcome to my road test walk around of the Mercedes-Benz CLA, the smaller brother of the CLS, and the second model that Mercedes has dubbed the four-door coupe, which is a bit of an oxymoron. We'll see how the smaller version stacks up in this walk around and road test. Stay tuned. Okay, so as you look at the front end of the CLA, very aggressive front end. I really like this. This does not look like an entry-level car to me, especially for an upmarket vehicle like a Mercedes-Benz. Got the nice big three-pointed star indicating that it's very sporty. If you were to choose the sport package, this car does not have it. It would give you an even more aggressive front end. This lower front air dam would be a little more pronounced. These on the side, these intakes would be a little bit bigger, and this on the front has more of an iridescent look to it, which is really cool. So I really like that. Like the headlights too. These aren't the xenon ones, but I still think that they look great. You also have the front park sensors, which is nice. If you walk around the car, you see that nice sweeping line. I really like that. Got the nice, very sophisticated looking turn signals on the side. As we go around to the back, you'll see the spoiler, which is very nice. This particular car has that as an add-on option, and I think that's a must-have option. I really like the way that that looks. You also can see the nice exhaust, nice lower air dam, all of those things. And I like these wheels too. These are a little bit smaller than what you would typically expect to find, but I don't think that they look low end by any means. And if you want to look inside, you can open the door and it just kind of bathes the interior. See how bright those lights are? You kind of see them come on there. It's very pleasing to the eye. I really think it looks great. And the stitching, everything. In fact, I'll just get in here and point out a few things for you. You can see the nice stitching here on the steering wheel. Again, not your typical thing for an entry-level car, especially for a Mercedes. The nav system screen, lots of great things in here. But the overall look here on the door. You can see you got all these controls. You got memory seats, the power seats, which is in the shape of a seat. This is kind of a Mercedes-Benz trademark. I really like that. I really love all the stitching, and this is kind of a leather type material here, and then the chrome or the satin aluminum kind of a finish there, and Harman Kardon sound system. Really can't beat that. Now, one of the things I will tell you about this car is the back seat room. Plenty of leg room. Headroom, it's a little questionable. I'll get in here and show you what I mean. I am about 5'11", 5'10", and my head is definitely touching the ceiling at this point. But if you kind of sit down a little bit, there's plenty of leg room. So if you just kind of have to adjust when you get in here, if you're a little bit taller, it's not uncomfortable. I could ride back here for a long time, and I also think the panoramic moonroof would help with that kind of claustrophobic feeling. But you'll see where my knees are here. Plenty of space, nice insets in the seats, and I love these openings. These are so cool. I don't know if you can see this or not on my fingers, but see there's a light under there, under the headrest. I think that's pretty cool too. There's also one behind me. I can show you that right here. See the light there? Isn't that cool? It's just kind of a neat little added bonus. Gives you that more of a luxury feel. This thing's got so many airbags I couldn't even count them because, you know, we're limited by like 20 minutes on this segment to count all the ones that are around here. But for a compact four-door, because, you know, the idea is supposed to be like a four-door coupe. That's what the CLS is. And so this is just its smaller brother. So that's part of the reason why you expect it to be a little bit smaller. Now, they may have skimped a little bit on rear headroom in this for the sake of a sporty design, but there's plenty of room in the trunk, and the seats do fold down. So you got lots of room in there, plenty of room. You could easily get your golf clubs in there, and if you needed to fold the seat down, they are a 60-40 split, so that makes it nice too. There's also a remote that allows you to open that. So LED taillights, those look great. I think this graphite's a great color. I really do. And again, on the inside, these lights up here, you can really see it in my hand there. I mean, really, really bright. But it's nice because they don't just come right on if it's really, really dark outside. They kind of warm up and then cool down. I think that's the way that you would describe it. So, anyway, let's take the car for a ride and see what we think about that. We're behind the wheel now in the 2014 Mercedes-Benz CLA, an all-new model for 2014, not only for the United States, but also for the world. It's built on a chassis that Mercedes has been using for a while, but it's the first time that we've seen a car from that platform here in the U.S. Now, one thing you're probably wondering is, what is all the fuss about? This car was in a Super Bowl ad. That's been quite a few months ago at this point, and they've continued to have ads since then. They've had a lot of print ads. A lot of things about this car being talked about, and a lot of the thing being talked about is that price. $29,000 is the base price for this car. I can tell you that this car does not feel base model at all. I've probably said that 15 times during this segment, and the truth of it is, that's correct. This does not feel like a car that would be in that status, and I'm really pleased with Mercedes that they've done this. In the interest of full disclosure, I will tell you, I am a Mercedes-Benz fan. I don't actually own a Mercedes, but I am a Mercedes fan, and I can tell you that the last time that they tried to do an entry-level car that was going to be for younger people and was going to be kind of hip and cool, it was the C-Class Coupe that had a hatchback. I had some problems with that car. I was able to drive one. The engine was okay, the gearbox okay, that aspect of it was okay, but the inside just seemed kind of cheap for a Mercedes. I think some of the interior features would work over in Europe, but here in the United States, they just don't really go as well. For one thing, it had cloth seats, which is not something that people in the U.S. expect to see in a Mercedes-Benz. It kind of had this weird pattern in it, this kind of crisscrossy, stylized stuff, and it wasn't the traditional German plaid either. You may have seen that in some of the Volkswagens, and I think that looks cool. There's a Porsche 911 right now, the 50th anniversary edition, that has that interior as an option, and I think that looks great, but that's not what I'm talking about here. That doesn't look cheap the way this did in the C-Class Coupe. So the CLA solves that problem. It also adds 2 more doors from the C-Class Coupe. It is a 4-door. It's not the most spacious 4-door, but it is very, very sporty. That is something I will say. It's got a sport mode. There's a sporty setup as far as the throttle response. It does have paddle shifters, which, by the way, this is rated at 38 miles to the gallon on the highway, thanks to that turbocharged 4-cylinder. So that's kind of a very popular thing right now, turbocharged 4-cylinders, because you can get the gas mileage when you're wanting to just cruise down the highway or you're cruising around town. But when you want to give it some gas, here, I'll give it a little bit of juice here, and you'll get to hear it a little bit. Yeah, that sounds wonderful. So when you hear that, that was in eco mode, by the way. So even if you press on the gas in eco mode, it will go. So that's a really good thing. As far as sport mode, if you put it in sport mode, the shifts will be more ferocious. You won't have to push as hard on the gas to make it do that, to make it go, basically. There's also a manual mode, and when you do that, it allows you to use the paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheels. You've got plus on the right side and minus on the left. I will say Mercedes has done this quite well. I don't really like the way the gearbox responds, but I do like the buttons. Manual mode has not been my thing in a Mercedes. I prefer the sport mode myself. For whatever reason, the manual mode just doesn't seem to respond the way that I think that it should. Now, perhaps they'll improve that down the line. I don't think it's horrendous. It's not something you couldn't live with, but it's nice to know you don't have to have it in manual mode all the time. Now, what I do like are these buttons. You have the plus on the right side and minus on the left. And that's cool, because BMW a while back had it where you'd pull it towards you for down, push it away from you for upshifts or downshifts or whatever. I don't even remember because it was so hard to figure out. And they were both the same on either side. It didn't matter which way you pushed. But with this, no matter what angle the steering wheel is at, there's a convex and concave. There's like this way for upshifts, this way. So you can kind of feel your way to success. It's hard to explain unless you can feel it out yourself, but you feel the back of these buttons and you'll be able to feel whether you're ready for an upshift or a downshift, no matter what angle that the steering wheel is at. So I think that's a very nice feature. Another thing about eco mode, there's another eco button down here that you can push, and that controls the stop-start function. A lot of people may have heard about this. A lot of cars now, when you pull up to the stoplight, they shut off, and then they come back on. Well, this has a stop-start function, but unlike a lot of other cars, they don't have a button that says stop-start off. It's merely an eco button. So when you see that in here, that's what that means. But the only thing I don't like about that, I'm not a big fan of the stop-start function. I don't know that it saves that much gas, and it seems very jarring to me whenever you turn the car back on, or it turns itself back on, I should say. You're sitting at a stoplight, and then it's like, oh, okay, I guess did it die? What happened? I don't know what's going on. So you kind of have to get used to that. But the nice thing is you can push this eco button every time you get in the car, and it'll shut that off, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Some other things about this car, I mentioned that it does have quite a few features. This particular model has navigation. It also has heated seats, has automatic climate controls, dual zone for driver and passenger. It does not have the panoramic moonroof, which I think is a must-have option, but really wouldn't run the price up that much more than this one. This is about $35,900, $35,800, somewhere in that price range, so you're looking at about $35,000, up from a base price of $29,000. This also has Sirius XM, and it does have the Harman Kardon Logic 7 sound system, so all of that is part of the premium package. You got home link up here on the mirrors, the SOS system, Bluetooth as well, so you got hands-free calling as well as Bluetooth streaming audio. So if you have a smartphone and you want to stream that through this excellent sound system, I've been listening to this, the Harman Kardon Logic 7 sound system. A lot of speakers in here, and boy does it really sound great. But I'm a sucker for a premium sound system, I'll tell you that. But Harman Kardon, probably one of the best on the list. Mercedes knows how to do interiors, and Harman Kardon knows how to do speakers, so you bring them together, and it's really, really great. We're cruising along now at about 45 miles per hour, and I would say it's pretty smooth. It's pretty quiet in here, which is kind of a hallmark of a Mercedes-Benz. So even on the cheap end, things are pretty quiet in here. So to sum up, a list of pros and cons. If I was going to list those for you, I would say, on the pro side, styling. Car looks very stylish, looks great, especially in this price point. That's number one. Number two, interior fit and finish. The interior is very nice. It feels 100% Mercedes-Benz. It doesn't feel like they've skimped in here. It is not anything like the old C-Class Coupe as far as interior materials are concerned. Great steering wheel. Love this. Love the stitching. Can't say enough good things about that, but a great, great, great interior. Other pros on the list, this turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's unbelievable to me that you have a car that can get 27 in town, 26 in town, and then get 38 miles to the gallon on the highway, but then also have as much power as this car has. Okay, on the cons list, I would say, cons list, ordering it without the panoramic moonroof is a mistake. I wouldn't do that. I'm a big moonroof person. If you're not, maybe you would disagree with me, but I think that the moonroof would add a lot to the airy feel of the cabin. This feels kind of cramped to me, especially in the back seat. We showed you the headroom, and you know what I mean by that. Some other cons on this car, I would say, in some people's mind, front-wheel drive would be a con. I know it's the first Mercedes-Benz to ever have front-wheel drive in the United States. At least I'm pretty sure about that. I've not ever really seen one. But I prefer rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive myself, and I think that this car, front-wheel drive, is sometimes you think, oh yeah, I forget because Mercedes is so sporty, but there is no torque steer. I will say that. I've not had any evidence of that, but front-wheel drive, it's just not quite as sporty of a feel as it could. Now, I think you can get this car in all-wheel drive, so if you get it in all-wheel drive, then you'll be fine. It won't have that feeling anymore, but I don't think it's bad, but I think it could be better. Let's just say that. I would have gone with, if I was Mercedes, I would have said, well, let's make it rear-wheel drive. Other pros on the list, lots of trunk space. You've got plenty of space to put all your stuff in the back, even if you don't have as much space for headroom for the rear seat occupants. So that's something else to keep in mind. Other pros on the list, I'd say, well, you've got a lot of features available on this car for not a lot of money. I priced one out the other night on Mercedes-Benz website, and fully loaded price, I added pretty much everything, was right about $41,000 or $42,000, and that was with the sport package and the moonroof and blind spot monitoring and all sorts of great options. A lot of stuff that you find on the higher end Mercedes. Well, that does it for my road test of the 2014 Mercedes-Benz CLA250. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for more car videos coming soon.